Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of These Are The Voyages. I'm the captain, Captain Chase McKinney, and joining me for more definitive stuff, my definitive friend, Commander Eric. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
That was fantastic.
I mean, I just answered the question.
I love how I can always count on like a dramatic pause from like you and David. Exactly.
It's like what we do.
It is what we do.
It's like when you're watching like a TV interview and the people are not in the same place, and you're like, "Hey, Karen, the weather person out there, can you tell us what's going on?" And then there's the big
10,
pregnant pause.
9, 8, 7. Yeah, it's forever long.
It's forever, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're just trying to recreate that moment because it's always been my dream to be a TV weather person.
Man, if that math thing don't work out, just do it.
Listen, like there are two jobs, right? Where there's no reward for being right, and there's really no penalty for being wrong. One of them is a weatherman, and the other is a teacher. I chose one of those professions.
Oh shoot. Yeah, there might be a wee bit of truth with what you're saying to that, my friend. Oh, goodness.
And to be a weatherman in like Florida, it's going to be sunny, it's going to rain. Be a weatherman in California. What's the weather out there? Nice. Back to you.
Yeah.
Unlike a weatherman in Michigan, which is like spin the wheel.
We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. It's going to be 20 degrees at 6 a.m. It'll be 40 degrees by noon, 60 degrees by 3, and maybe 8 o'clock, 80 degrees by the time we go to bed.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. All 4 seasons in one day.
Memorial Day weekend? Yeah, it could snow.
It's true. It's so true. It snowed on my birthday one year.
Yeah, it snowed at Spring Conclave one year.
Yeah. Like, what is this? Like, we're at the end of May. What is this?
May snow showers.
Well, apart from weather, how have you been? What have you been up to, dude?
Not much, just enjoying our vacation here, this summer break. Making our plans for our trip that we're going to take. Getting some supplies.
Nice.
I bought my wife a pair of cowboy boots.
Hey.
Right? An early birthday gift for her, right?
Nice.
I have a pair of cowboy boots, right? And she does. The Texan didn't.
So I gotta ask, did you spring for some Lucchese boots?
No, we just got Ariats.
Okay.
we went to Boot Barn and got some Ariats. We went to tried Cavenders. They didn't have
Very
them.
Good.
And then I got myself a new cowboy hat, right? Because I got my felt Stetson 4X, but the thing's hot in the summer.
Yes, it is.
I mean, we went to a concert last August, and we went and I wore my cowboy hat to it, and I was sweating. I was just dripping sweat from my head, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot wear this thing. It's not a summer hat."
Oh.
So I went and got one of those, like a summer, breathable cowboy hat as well.
Yeah.
George Strait, it's like a George Strait collection.
Okay. Yeah. I want to get a new. I want to get a new hat myself. The one I think you were there when I got mine, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I mean it's comfortable, but I just want something maybe just a little bit more high quality.
Sure.
I mean, like for anyone that doesn't know, like when it comes to like the quality of a hat, like when we're dealing with like a Western hat, they use like an X rating system. And like if you're dealing with a 1, 2, or 3, well, anything like, well, mine's a 3.
Yeah, mine's a 4.
So like it's pretty basic hat. Like it's like it's not
a 10X.
No,
those things can be expensive.
You gonna throw some money down on those suckers. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to get something a little bit more. I mean, it doesn't have to be like too crazy, but just maybe a couple more X's and stuff, and
Yeah, and then I went and I looked through the belt buckle section, and I was told no.
What?
I know, right?
Okay. So
yeah, our friendship belt buckle, I couldn't keep that.
Do you have it though?
No, it's not. It doesn't exist in this household anymore.
Hold on. Eric, hold on. Red alert. Dude, I've known you for over 20 years. You're telling me that our friendship is in the garbage?
I don't know where it is. It's just not here anymore. So somewhere, things, we've moved like 3 times since then. So, stuff happens when you move, right?
So they say. I thought I knew you.
I know.
I thought what we had was special.
It is, but like, if your wife won't let you wear something, sometimes you just gotta cave, right?
Look, this is the part where you're like, honey, listen, I just bought you some boots. I can wear a $10 friendship belt buckle if I want to.
We found at the stockyards in a bin.
That's right. Well, we don't have to go to the stockyards next time for a friendship belt buckle replacement. There's a
you still have yours?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in my.
I wonder if David still has his.
It's in my nightstand. In the bedroom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But there's a shop that opened up here in town that we can go to the next time you're up here. We can get.
All right, we're doing that.
We can get something.
Yeah. I'll never be able to wear it because my wife hates big belt buckles.
Okay, then that means we have to get a dinner plate size belt buckle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Giant. That's right. There was a, I don't remember the kid's real name. I don't know if I've ever complained about this to you, but when I was on camp staff one summer, you remember what a CIT was, right?
Yeah, counselor in training.
Yeah. So summer camp counselor at the camp that you and I grew up at in northern Michigan. So I don't remember when in the summer he was there, but he was like a teen, right? Like he was, still a scout. And this dude was tricked out in Philmont everything. It was annoying. He had the Philmont arrowhead dangle patch thing on his temporary pocket.
Okay.
He had the Philmont leather belt, and then he had a freakishly giant Philmont belt buckle. And we just ribbed that kid so hard for the 2, 3, however many weeks he was there for. We just started calling him Philmont because everything was Philmont. We were starting to wonder is his underwear embroidered with Philmont on it or something? He had so much Philmont stuff. For anyone that isn't has never been involved in scouts and has no idea what I'm talking about, 1, you can Google this. 2, it's this premier high adventure base.
Yeah, somewhere in the desert.
Northern New Mexico,
Yeah.
Cimarron, New Mexico, which a lot of scouts really want to go to. I know a fair amount of folks that have wanted to go to Philmont. I've been there for training. I went to the training center once, but I haven't been to Florida Sea Base or Northern Tier, and I haven't been to the new one, Summit. Haven't been there. It's very nice. You want to take saline with you for your nose. God bless your nose. You need saline when you go to northern New Mexico. I'm just saying. But yeah, we gave him so much crap because of his belt buckle. It was a huge, he had to have bought the biggest belt buckle he could find when he was there. And he would when people, some people wear belt buckles, they'll kind of they'll Al Bundy it. They'll kind of put their their thumbs like up and around the belt buckle and just kind of strut?
Yes.
That was him.
Okay.
All the time. So what I'm saying, Eric, is find your friendship belt buckle and start strutting our friendship.
Okay. I'll look for it.
Oh,
you know,
man.
it could be one of those situations where, you know, your wife throws something out. Has this ever happened to you? And then you look for it and they're like, I don't know what happened to it.
Oh,
but the whole
darn.
time they,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that. Yeah. Well, we're gearing up for vacation ourselves here pretty soon. I think I might have mentioned it on a previous episode, but yeah, we're going to go to the coast, the Gulf Coast, for family vacation here in just a couple weeks. And it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it, and making some memories and junk like that. It's going to be a busy summer, and I'm looking forward to getting back to talking some Star Trek episodes in July when Strange New Worlds comes back. I'm sure we can talk about this the next time we're all together, but news broke recently about there's going to be the fifth and final season that's been greenlit for Strange New Worlds. And it's going to be a shortened season as of right now. It's only 6 episodes. Like, what? It's been 10 the whole time, hasn't it?
Yes, but like shows do this. Like, I mean, I think the first show to do this was The Sopranos. It shortened its last season, and then like Breaking Bad did it, and then Mad Men did it, and you know Game of Thrones did it with its last season, a couple seasons, and then like The Expanse did it. Like lots of shows do this with its last season, just to kind of make the last season more of like a every episode is impactful. But those are all serialized shows.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe we'll get some serialized story. I don't know.
I mean, the thing, and I've seen like some early comments about this. I don't know if you've poked around or not, Eric.
No, I
but
don't.
There have been some early comments, you know, about like how this would align with the handoff, basically from Pike to Kirk, and if it is in fact, if Strange New World is taking place about 7 years prior to Kirk, then we're going to be just shy of it unless there's like a time jump here or there to kind of make it work. Like a 1 or 2 year time jump, basically.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, like, will Strange New Worlds end with Pike's accident, or will that be just something that like happens off screen, or like we don't see? It's just we know it's going to happen, because I don't even know if I think that it needs to happen necessarily, right? Because we all know it's going to, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know. That's a long way off, right? A couple of years off at least.
Yeah.
We're talking about season 5. We haven't even watched season 3 yet.
Right. Season 3 comes out in about 4 weeks at the time of us sitting down to talk about this current episode.
Yeah. So we got time to ponder that.
Yeah. I mean, at the earliest, it's going to be 2 years. I would say so. I don't think they're going to.
The earliest.
Yes. Earliest 2 years. I mean, we're going to get, like, you know, season 3 here in just a matter of weeks. And then I would assume 9 months to a year for season 4 to drop, and then same thing, 9 to 12-ish months for the final season to drop. So,
yep.
Anyway, but hey, we have been meandering our way through character studies, and it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time. We're getting there.
We're getting there slowly. Very slowly. But hey, just for those in listenerland that have clicked on this episode, you know, wherever you're listening at, on your computer, on your phone, whatever, it's a Chakotay episode. So we're showing some love to Voyager, on this particular episode. So this, like we've done in the past, just to give like a quick recap as we kind of meander our way into discussing this stuff. We started this like long freaking time ago to get ready for Picard. That was like the original idea behind doing like a definitive top 10 type of episode character study thingy. And we've worked our way through the captains and now through the second officers very slowly.
The first officers.
First officers. Why did I say second?
Second in command.
Second in command. Thank you. Tongue tied. Yeah, we're working our way through the number ones, and anyway, here we are with Chakotay. So the general idea is, if you had to kind of distill down to just 10-ish episodes to understand this particular character, what 10-ish episode stories, whatever, would you pick and why, basically? So we've had interesting conversations over the years in kind of doing this. And I think the last episode, which came out not too terribly long ago on Spock, I think that was honestly the closest we have ever been with our lists.
Yeah, obviously there's some things that we both put on for every character because there have to be, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we were like 9 out of 9 or something, or 8 out of 10 or something.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. We have not, like all these, we do not discuss our lists prior to diving in and talking about this content. The only questions that we do end up asking, or I end up asking really, is how many do you have on your list? Because like I said, it's 10-ish, right? Like we try and stick to 10. Sometimes it's a little less, maybe it's a little bit more.
Emphasis on the ish.
Major emphasis on ish. That only counts as one.
That only counts as one.
What I do last time, I combined like 4 movies into one.
4 movies and counted as one.
That's right. Oh, shoot. That was good. Okay, so we're going to get into this. And I'm going to try and not stumble over myself as I share my episodes. I know that you are much more well-read when it comes to Voyager than I probably am. Just full disclosure. But we're going to get after it anyway.
Yeah. So let's just talk about Chakotay before we start here.
Yep. Let's do it.
I would say that of all of these like first officers here, he's probably the most underused, I would say.
I would agree.
I think that his character definitely got lost. Like there's an incredibly interesting idea when it starts of this former Starfleet officer who left to fight with the Maquis because of his principles, and then he was hunted, then they was forced and kind of like willingly joined Janeway, right? Not kind of, but like just joined her and said, well, I'm going to make this work. And that's like a really interesting premise. But that premise, I feel like, got dropped pretty quickly, right? Of like the Starfleet versus Maquis.
Yes.
And he just kind of fell into the background of all, like the Doctor had much, and then when 7 of 9 came along, obviously she took up a lot of story. And Chakotay, he just like, he has his episodes and he's there, but there isn't a lot of like character arc as there is with a lot of these other first officers, I would say. And that's not to say Chakotay is not an interesting character and there's not good things to look at, but one of the big criticisms that I've seen of Chakotay online is that he kind of became a Janeway yes man as it went along, which I don't know if that's fair. I wouldn't agree with that, and hopefully on some of my episodes here I will address that idea.
Sure.
But I also think he was kind of hindered by like there was this Native American character, and
yes.
then they hired, as shows do, they'll often hire like technical advisors, right, to help them make sure they get things right. But in the case of Voyager, they hired somebody to be their Native American technical advisor who turned out to be a fraud.
Yes.
Right, and that also, I think, hurt Chakotay's character as well.
Yes. Agreed. When I think of, I think that's very well said, and I'll just say, like, when I think about Chakotay, he is, in some ways, more quiet, which I think kind of goes along with what you were saying just a moment ago, compared to like the other number ones that we've experienced across the other shows. But I think there is a loyalty about him that comes through in spades.
Oh, he's fiercely loyal.
Yes. And like you see, like, his loyalty, I think, really impacts his leadership style. Like, whenever he does take the center seat, leads an away mission, whatever it might be. So it's a really interesting dynamic, seeing how Robert Beltran, portrays this particular first officer for this particular Star Trek show.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, Eric, unless you have other comments, I have like...
Nope,
okay.
I'm good.
I have 11, but it's 10, maybe 12, but it's really 10. I don't know how, it'll make sense here in a second. Like, I am guilty for always having the series premiere, but at the same time, it's kind of a given. I'm a glutton when it comes to how stories start and how they finish.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's where everyone comes together. Like this, it's where the story starts. So it's going to be like on everyone's list, basically, except for Discovery, right? Because like some characters don't show up until the second or third episode.
Yeah.
But that's a different thing altogether. I'm not going to get into. But just know that Caretaker parts 1 and 2, that's going to be on my list. Just take care of that right away. Where we see the struggle, right? Like, we have the Star Wars opening crawl in this episode, and it kind of talks about the Maquis and kind of like what the heck's going on. And we have, Chakotay, who's the leader of this group of rebels, basically. And it's really Janeway and company kind of going after, because things are happening, and just watch the episode to know all the details. But it's where we see him. So we see there's this leadership quality, right? Like prior Starfleet experience type of situation, leading this rebel group, and at the end of it all, really it's this, we got to make things work because we're so far away from home. Hey, by the way, if you want us to like be happy, basically, then help us integrate, meaning give us some influence on ship operations as well. So that's going to come into my earnest number 1 here in a second, which might surprise you, actually. But anyway, that's basically it. So certainly Caretaker has to be on the list.
Okay, yeah, so I always usually know that I can get away without putting the pilots here unless I feel very strongly about it, because I know Chase is probably going to put it there.
Yep.
So, like, I often skip the pilot. And honestly, I don't think Chakotay is that big of a player in the pilot episode. I think, like, Neelix might even have a bigger role in the pilot than Chakotay does. But, so, the first one on my list is actually episode 2. Which I think is a perfect episode 2. It's called Parallax.
That was my actual first number 1,
okay,
by the way.
But I'm not just gonna put Parallax. I'm gonna start things. I'm gonna do a combine, a 2-for-1 right away, and I'm gonna put Parallax and Learning Curve together.
Okay.
And call that 1.
Okay.
Parallax being season 1, episode 2, Learning Curve being the season 1 finale, which isn't really much of a season finale as season finales go. I think that like this is a perfect second episode of, not that it's like a perfect episode of television, because it's not, but like it's perfect as the second episode coming right after the premiere of, we have to integrate these two crews. Janeway says, we have to be one crew. We can't be Starfleet and Maquis. We have to be one crew, a Starfleet crew, and by doing that, we can come together and we can make our way home. Mm-hmm. And well, a lot of people on the Voyager died in the caretaker incident, right? And they have to, fill out the staff, right? Make new senior officers fill out the staff. And Chakotay here is adamant about, like, some of my people, right, have to be put into leadership roles, have to be put into prominent roles on this ship. Otherwise, we won't be integrating the crew. It'll just be your crew and my crew. And Chakotay says here, he's like, you're right, Captain. I do consider these my people because nobody else on this ship will look out for them like I will. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to give them more authority if you want their loyalty. And Janeway's like, theirs or ours, Commander? Ooh, that's a powerful statement right there. And he's like, you cannot just promote your Starfleet people. You have to promote some of my people. And I can't. And Janeway's like, but they're not your people. They're our people now, right? And even you, Chakotay, have to get over that. And then, like, he suggests B'Elanna Torres, right, to be the chief engineer. And Janeway is hesitant at first. She wants to promote Lieutenant Carey, right? And eventually, and Chakotay is like stubborn about this. And he, at this one point, I love this line. He says, "I have no intention of being your token Maquis officer." Like, what a great line. Yeah. I mean, honestly, what a great line.
For real.
And like, I think it resonates with Janeway, right, when he says that. Like, I have no interest in being your token Maquis officer. Mm-hmm. And, Janeway comes around and she promotes B'Elanna to being the chief engineer, knowing that Chakotay is right here. And this is where I really see the start of this loyalty that he is building, and he is trying to get these two crews integrated. And he wants everyone to fall in line with Janeway, because there's even that scene at the beginning of this episode where, like, some of the, like, Seska and some of the other people come. Yep. It's like we're behind you. We're ready to take the ship if you need us to. And he's like, if I ever hear you talk about that again, I'll have you all thrown in the brig for mutiny. Right. So, like, he is like, no, we are not these two separate crews.
Yep.
And then I kind of want to bring in, I want to put Learning Curve in with this, like, in together, because they're the same idea as far as I'm concerned. So in Learning Curve, Janeway suggests, like, putting some Maquis crew members through, like, a boot camp, a Starfleet boot camp. Mm-hmm. Right? And Chakotay picks out a few people, and they don't want to do it, right? And this guy, whatever, Dalby, he's like, look, Commander, you know as I do that we're used to playing by a different rule book. There's the Starfleet way and the Maquis way. And these Maquis people are like, we're just going to do things the way we want. We're going to keep our head down. What are they going to do? Throw us in the brig? Put us off the ship? They can't do anything. And there's this scene in, like, the mess hall. And he's like, oh, you want to do things the Maquis way? And what does Chakotay do? He punches him. He literally punches this guy, lays him out. Says, that's the Maquis way, isn't it? And I'm gonna keep doing it that way until you fall in line. You get me? And I'm just like, what a great moment, right? Like, he is, like, that invested in making sure these crew members understand, like, we are one crew. We are a Starfleet crew. I believe in Janeway. I am going to follow her, and I need all of you too. And so I want to put those together as, like, one to highlight that idea.
Okay, so I'm so glad that you had Parallax with yours, That was the one that I was actually thinking, like, I don't know if Eric's going to agree with this or not. And I'm pleasantly surprised in a way
that's like, if we were ranking these, like 1 to 10, not just in order, this would be like number 1 or number 2.
Sure. Yeah, like, I mean, you do have like the chief engineer thing is like the backdrop, among other things, in the episode. And the reason I picked it was like the advocacy piece, right? And like him putting his best foot forward, maybe is another way of kind of describing it, right? To have that that integration, that unity, right? That we're trying our level best to get at, which we don't fully get at, even by the end. Well, we do by the end of the first season, which is Learning Curve. It's the last episode of season 1. So, yeah, I couldn't have said it better, man. Like you said it so well. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Great episode. I enjoyed it, and we'll leave it at that. So let me just ask you this. Do you have any more season 1 episodes?
I do have another season 1 episode.
Okay.
But, I said this is my list. I'm going to do it how I want. I'm going to pull another 2 for 1 right off the bat. Right? And this is the last 2 for 1, okay?
BOGO, here we go.
So I'm going to take and say, as much as you might not like them, you cannot tell the story of Star Trek Voyager without mentioning the Kazon, right? Yep. You can't do it. They were the first bad guy, the primary antagonist for the first 2 seasons. They take up a lot of storyline, and the Seska of it all is incredibly important. So I'm going to do this 2 for 1. I'm going to put State of Flux and Maneuvers together and call that 1. Right? So State of Flux from season 1 episode 10, and Maneuvers season 2 episode 11.
Okay.
And this is like the Seska arc.
Yes.
So in State of Flux, somebody on the ship has given technology to the Kazon. Turns out to be Seska, who was a member of Chakotay's crew, but she was really a Cardassian spy made to look Bajoran. Chakotay and her had like a relationship, and he feels incredibly betrayed by this moment, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, how could he have the wool pulled so far over his eyes, right?
Right.
And he's talking with Tuvok, who was on that ship, and he's like, I'd like to know from somebody else who pulled the wool over my eyes. Was I particularly naive, right? Was I not paying enough attention? What the hell was it that let all these spies get by me? He's like all humans, you depend on feeling and instinct to guide you, and invariably they let you down. But particularly naive, no, Commander. And then Chakotay says, did you ever see anything about Seska that made you suspicious? He goes, no, she quite expertly pulled the wool over my eyes as well. And well, that makes me feel a little bit better. Curious. What? That your failure, added to my own, should improve your feelings. Misery loves company, Tuvok. So Seska betrays him, and that's like personal. He takes it super personal. Yeah. That because he had a relationship with her, she pulled it so... She duped him so well.
Yeah.
And that when she goes and joins with the Kazon, and then in Maneuvers, they execute like this precision strike to steal some more technology. Mm-hmm. And Chakotay takes it so personally that he goes on like essentially a suicide mission almost. A solo suicide mission to try to get the technology back, or at least stop the Kazon from keeping it. Right. Because he feels so personally betrayed and personally hurt by this that it's his duty and his responsibility, and he even tells Janeway not to, don't come after me when I'm doing this.
Right.
And it's really important to understand this relationship dynamic that happened with Chakotay and Seska, and so I think these 2 episodes are absolutely essential here.
I didn't include that first one, but Maneuvers is on my list. It's actually number 4 on my list. Um, but I agree. Like you can't you can't have any kind of Chakotay list, in my opinion, without including Seska. You just can't. So I opted more for maneuvers. I think in part, and I'm getting ahead of. I'm skipping over my number 3 for right now. Like I said, this is my number 4, just because of I think the emotional depth, right, that the character goes through, right, of this like very intimate, very close relationship that he has with Seska, and like you so rightly described, just the utter betrayal that he has experienced in light of everything that's happened up to this point, and then it being compounded by like him basically asking like, who can I trust, right? Like you lied to me, basically, you know, like going through like that whole exchange that you just described. So yeah, like you have to have Seska, at least one episode of Seska on a Chakotay list. You just have to. Yep. So let me just give you my number 3 real quick. Okay. So this probably, I don't know if this is on your list or not, but one thing about Chakotay, with him being this, even though there was a very poor technical advisor that was found out to be a fraud, there was this belief at one point that this is how like native stuff was or could be in the future and stuff like that. And for Chakotay, one thing that's very noticeable about him is he has this tattoo over his eye, like his forehead, basically. So for me, I went with tattoo.
Okay, that's on my list as well.
Okay. So we have an away mission, right, where we have Chakotay coming in contact with symbols, basically from his past, flashbacks, and basically the long and short of it is there are these memories. There's this journey, basically, that he went on with his father that helped shape his spiritual beliefs. So the thing about Chakotay is he does have like this spiritual component to him in his own way, and I think that's an important thing to include in a character study of Chakotay, especially something so visual like the tattoo, and the fact that there's a episode that's kind of focused on aspects of it.
Yeah, it's essentially Chakotay's backstory. Like, you learn about his motivations, like why he wanted to join Starfleet in the first place, and the relationship he had with his father, right? And and then you learn a little bit about like his motivations for joining the Maquis, right? You know, he's got that quote at the end. Like, we weren't on very good terms when he died. Once he was gone, I didn't know how to reconcile our differences, how to heal our old wounds. I returned to my colony, continued the fight in his name. I took the mark that he wore to honor his ancestors, right? Yeah, and I think it's important, absolutely, when you get that backstory to understanding him, right? And it's definitely on my list, and I, you know, there's a lot of issues you might have with the episode, but like, yeah.
Right. For this particular show, this fictional story, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
Where was that? Just curious. Where was that on your list? Was that next or not really?
No, I'm actually kind of surprised you skipped over an episode that I think is important here.
Okay.
Okay, so if I go to the third one on my list, because Tattoo would be fourth on my list.
Okay.
Number 3 on my list is Season 2, Episode 2, Initiations.
I thought about it. I really did. I kind of figured you would put on it, so I just kind of left it.
Yeah, I just feel like this is like an episode that gets to like the heart, the core of like who Chakotay is. Like, I would stop short of calling Chakotay a pacifist, because he's not. I don't because clearly, you know, he fights for things he believes in, right? You know, he joined the Maquis out of principle, right? And we just talked about Tattoo, right? He took up the fight in his father's honor and for his people and all those things. So he's not a pacifist per se, right? But for him, fighting is always a last resort, and he'll do anything he can to not fight. And I think this in the episode Initiations gets to the core of like, I'm not your enemy. Like, let us find some common ground here. We get, Aaron Eisenberg as this young Nog himself as this young Kazon who trying to make his name for himself, right? And making his name for himself is killing an enemy, right? And I'll do enemy in air quotes, right? Because Chakotay this whole time is like, I am not your enemy, right? And what's so different about you and me? He's trying to just like relate to this young kid this whole time, right? And like, what's so different between you and me aside from the fact that I keep saving you and you keep trying to kill me? And like this young kid, he wants to earn his name, right? Without a name, he can't be a man, so to speak, right? And Chakotay's like, well, your name and my uniform are basically the same thing, right? I had to earn the right to wear this uniform, right? Not through the same means, but it still had to earn it. And he tries to get through to him, and I think at the end he does get through to this Car, right? I think Chakotay does. He breaks him down because like Car can't kill him at the end, and I feel like this is a great episode to get to Chakotay's core of like his beliefs and what type of character he's going to be. And then at the end of the episode, he's like, I pray on this day of memories, right? Father, if you can hear me, I ask that you watch over me and that you also watch over this boy Car, right? Because he has a difficult path to follow. So like his spiritual beliefs, he's asking like his I don't want to say gods, right? I don't know the word. He's asking the higher powers that he believes in to watch over this person who essentially was started out as his enemy and wanted to kill him. Right. And even after all of that, he still wants him to be safe and wants him, things to be better for him.
Yeah. I like I said, I thought about adding this. I do think it's an important episode, especially with kind of how some aspects of the conflict fighting stuff comes into play later on in this particular series, which I'll be talking about here pretty soon, actually. So we've been talking about relationships, among other things, and the next one on my list at my number 5, and I'm going to probably assume this is somewhere on yours, resolutions.
Yeah, that's the next one on my list as well.
Okay, so that's your 5 or your...
My 5, yep.
We're both on 5. How about that?
Both on 5, right?
Look at that. So yeah, there's this this episode, right? We have Captain Janeway and we have Chakotay that are having to adapt to life away from the ship. They have to quarantine because there's just stuff that's happened. There's allegedly this incurable disease that they've contracted, and they're going to be fine. We have a whole like five other seasons to deal with them.
They'll be fine.
But yeah, like this like time and like having to basically adjust to potentially spending the rest of your life with this person like Janeway, right? I don't know. I like this. I like the one-on-one nature that they have because like it's been. I mean, it still is like very much like chain of command, but like the fact of the matter that you get to see your top two kind of out of their element for the most part, and like but having to deal with the cards that are being dealt in this particular episode in what could be a potentially a forever kind of situation.
Yeah, Janeway and Chakotay got very close. Like, you see lots of, not just in this episode, but you see lots of times where it almost looks like they're having like romantic nights, like romantic dinners, right? Like JC, ship it, right?
Yep.
No, but it's like sometimes you wonder, how did these two ever not like become romantic? Because we see them, they're like having dinner and sharing bottles of wine in Janeway's quarters, and it's like, I feel like this is one of those probably the first moment where we like kind of see that maybe there is some mutual attraction here and some kind of relation. But like Chakotay, being the loyal person that he is, right? You know, I'm not gonna say, but he tells that story, right? You know, the aging warrior swore him to like protect. Like, that's not really an ancient legend, is it? No, but it made it easier to say. You know. No, and like there's clearly some there with these two. Like, you know, I know Janeway had a fiance back at home, right?
Yes, she did.
You know, but like there's some there, and I think you see their romantic moments, and you somehow wonder, like, how did they not like hook up? I get, like, if something goes wrong, then that could lead to some chaos on, you know.
Yeah.
What do they say? Don't go number 2 where you eat, right? You've heard that saying, right?
Yes, I have, Eric.
Well, if you eat and work in the same place.
Yep. Just, we're gonna leave it right there. Leave it right there. Yeah. Okay, let's just go to the next episode.
Okay, next episode. I'm going to jump ahead to the end of season 3, toward the end of season 3, not the very end of season 3. And I am going to say season 3, episode 17, Unity.
Okay,
so this is the episode where I think like the Borg are introduced. Not the Borg proper, but like the idea of the Borg are introduced into Voyager, and is actually like a week or so, I think, before Star Trek First Contact premiered in theaters. Right. It was like they were like right next to each other, these two things.
Okay.
Don't quote me on the week, but they were like right next to each other. I can look that up, right, if we need to. But anyway, we introduced the Borg not the Borg proper, but the idea of the Borg into Star Trek Voyager.
Yes.
So that's important, right? Because they will play a big role, right? Spoiler.
What? What?
In our story here.
You sure?
Yeah, and so, you know, Chakotay, he crash lands on this planet, and there's like free Borg who have been severed from the collective, and they use this Borg technology to sort of heal his injuries, right? And he's very reluctant to do it at first, but he's probably going to die if they don't, so he agrees to it. And then these Borg, I don't hesitate to call them Borg, these ex-Borg, right? They want Voyager's help to essentially force everyone on the planet to become part of their small collective. I think they call it a cooperative, right? Not a collective. And Janeway and Chakotay both say no, right? No, we're not gonna help you do this. And these Borg say, well, don't tell us no. We're gonna force our will on you to do it on our own. And they basically like use Chakotay to do this, right? And I don't know. I think this is a good. It's like Chakotay's in every scene of this episode. I think, literally, I think he's in every scene. It introduces us to the Borg, and you sort of get some of Chakotay's philosophy here of like, how he's going to react to the Borg, and I love it at the end how he says like, you know, they didn't hesitate to use their collective will on me when it served their purpose. So are they any different than the Borg proper?
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder how long their ideals will last in the face of that kind of power, which I just think is a great statement there. Like, really great line. Like, they didn't hesitate to impose their will on me when it served their interest, right? So are they any different than the actual Borg? Well, I mean, what a great line.
Absolutely. That one wasn't on my list, but it makes sense, especially with what's going to be happening by the end of season 3.
Okay, so I'm way off on these dates here. Like, I don't even know what I was thinking.
This
episode aired in February of '97. Right?
Yeah.
Like, first contact came out in November of '96, so not really close.
Right. Yeah,
somehow
I saw
had that. I think what it is, I think the star dates match up is what I think it is. If you look at the star date in this episode and the star date for First Contact.
That makes sense.
If I can find this. Anyway, I think it's a really interesting episode. Good philosophical question there at the end, and Chakotay is literally in every scene of this episode.
So I don't know if my number 6 is going to be a surprise or not, but I'm about to go ham on this one. So the episode that I'm about to talk about next on my list, I don't know why, Eric, but this is the episode. When I think of like Chakotay, this is the episode that I just is bonded to him in my mind. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it's just there. It's bonded to me for some reason this way. Nemesis.
Okay, yeah, that's on my list.
So I don't know why. I don't know if I should love this episode as much as I do, but I love this episode. I mean, you are talking about a really good kind of. I think you'd call this like a psychological thriller by the time it's all said and done.
Oh yeah.
But there's this is like, Chakotay kind of being thrown in the middle of this conflict, right? And this manipulation, this propaganda with this ground war. And he takes a side at first, and then like over a period of time, like blinders start to come off, and kind of realizing, hey, maybe my assumptions weren't right to begin with, and neither side is like fully right. And just like how the episode as a whole, right? Like, I know that's a really short, abbreviated description of it, but like just the fact that this episode talks about and explores indoctrination, it talks about empathy, among other things, how we exploring empathy really for self and others, and just personal ethics. I love this episode, and I will forever just connect Chakotay and this episode together.
Yeah, this episode's on my list too. I strong Chakotay episode.
Yes.
and it gets back to the point I was trying to make earlier. Like, Chakotay is not a pacifist, but like fighting is not the primary. He's not like Worf, where like, it's in my nature to like fight. His nature is to use violence as a last resort, sort of. And like, you see him throughout most of this episode, like he's resisting, in the sense that he's not going to. They keep telling him, you got to fight, you got to fight, you got to fight. We have this nemesis, these beasts out there, and they keep calling them beasts. And he's like, this is not my war, this is not my fight, I'm not gonna fight them, right? And it's like, and then he's like, why do you call them beasts? Like, they're not beasts, they're just they're another species, right? You can't call them beasts. And then, he goes down this indoctrination hole where you see he's fighting this at every moment in this strong will. But I think you even see the most strong-willed people at some point are going to break.
Mm-hmm.
And then that last line. Whew, do you have it? That last line?
I have this quote. This exchange between Chakotay and Janeway.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Kraden don't kill innocent civilians. They don't desecrate the forest dead. I don't know, but the Kraden accused the Vori of the same kinds of atrocities. I cared about the Vori, but I hated the Kraden. I wanted to kill every one of them. Evidently, that was the point.
Yeah, and then the last line, right? Because the Kraden ambassador walks onto the ship, right? And then Chakotay just walks away from him, and he goes, "I wish it were as easy to stop hating as it was to start."
Mm-hmm.
What a great line, right? After everything he's been through, no, good episode, right? I'm shocked by the low score, 6.8 on IMDb, which
sure,
that feels a little harsh.
Sure, but
no, it's definitely on my list, but we skipped over an episode here that I'm kind of surprised got skipped over, if I am being perfectly honest.
Okay, let's hear it.
And that's Scorpion, right? This is where I kind of thought you were going. When I think about Star Trek Voyager, I think about this. That's kind of where I thought you were going.
So this is elsewhere on my list.
Okay, so Scorpion, right? Season 3 finale, season 4 premiere, same place in the show as Best of Both Worlds, right? Done totally on purpose, right? So most of what I want to talk about, I think, comes probably from part 2, not part 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you see there, as I said earlier, people sort of call Chakotay Janeway's yes man, right? He always says yes to her, he always backs her up. But I don't know if that's always true. Yes, he is loyal to her, but he stands up to her quite a bit more than you would think. And they come to blows several times during the show, and I think this is the time where they are adamantly at odds, and it's kind of shocking to see because they have been in lockstep and he has been so loyal to her. And so Janeway makes this plan to help the Borg, defeat species A472 in exchange for crossing the Borg space. And there's this back and forth. Don't you trust me, Chakotay? That isn't the issue. Oh, but it is. Only yesterday you were saying we'd face this together and you'd be at my side. I still have to tell you what I believe. I'm no good to you if I don't. She goes, I appreciate your insights, but the time for debate is over. I've made my decision. Now, do I have your support? And he goes, you're the captain. I'm the first officer. I'll follow your orders. But that doesn't change my belief that you're making a fatal mistake. Whew. Then she goes, after all. And then I guess I am alone after all. Yeah. And then they keep going to blows over this, and Janeway goes, maybe helping to assimilate them isn't such a bad idea. I don't think you really believe that. I think you're struggling to justify your plan because your desire to get your crew home is blinding you. What? Holy, he just opened a can of whoop ass. He did.
Yeah.
And then they come so hard to blows in part 2 where when Janeway recovers, she relieves him of duty, but in a sense it's sort of a ploy to make the Borg think that. But at the end he's I want you to know that disobeying your orders is one of those difficult things I've had to do. And then Janeway's I understand and I respect the decision you made. What's important is that in the end we got through this together. I don't ever want that to change. And so even after they come to all these blows and have this huge disagreement, right at the end, like, I'm still gonna trust you to help protect this crew. I still need you, right?
Yeah.
And nothing's ever gonna change that. You
Yeah.
see, they can come back together.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, probably the most famous Voyager episode, if you were to ask people to name a Voyager episode, this would probably be the one. What's your favorite Voyager episode? Or what's the one you remember? It's Scorpion.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I just don't think you can talk about, like, the story here without talking about these moments where they, like, literally come to blows.
So here's the thing, man. Like, I don't come at me. I saw this as more of a Janeway episode than I did a Chakotay episode.
That's fair.
And when I said this was elsewhere, I was going to save this for later, but I put this on an honorable mention because it has to be mentioned, right? This is the best of both worlds for freaking Voyager. Like, let's just be honest. Like, I think you said that earlier, actually. I mean, Scorpion is a very memorable episode. Like, it is probably, like you said, the episode that folks are going to remember. That, timeless. Those are, like, probably going to be, like, the best hits. Like, some of the best hits that you're going to hear whenever you're doing any kind of Voyager list. But because it seemed like there was more focus with Janeway and Janeway's development. And yes, there's some support with Chakotay. Especially whenever he's talking about the scorpion and the frog, right? Was that
the scorpion and the frog? Yeah.
Like that story, like I think that's like certainly a standout moment among other things in terms of like the should we shouldn't we type of situation, like the moral dilemma, of course, like the conflict that happens, but like I said, it's on my list, but I put it as an honorable mention. Just how I was thinking of it, but I agree. I get what you're saying, and respect what you're saying as part of your list. Okay, so was that your number?
That was my number 7, and Nemesis was my number 8.
Okay, so let me just do my number 7 and 8. I'm gonna assume that we're probably gonna have a little bit of overlap with this, maybe. So Year of Hell.
Year of Hell. Go ahead and then I'll explain because this is not on my list.
Okay. So Year of Hell. This is like one episode or two-parter that I enjoy. So we have the Krenim. Right, the Krenim that are coming into this whole situation. Red Foreman, if I remember right. What's his real name? Oh my gosh,
Kurtwood Smith.
Kurtwood Smith, thank you. Who's been in Star Trek stuff?
Yeah,
a handful of times.
Yeah.
Right, we have. A temporal ship that is creating some issues, basically, and part of what's happening in this two-parter is like it's just Chakotay at one point is basically just commanding the ship, right, and he's having to deal with like alliances that are very, very fragile. So I think that with, the pacifism that you're talking about and him not necessarily being a pacifist, but he's very thoughtful, sometimes almost to a fault in terms of like how he thinks about stuff, I think. And I think in this episode, he's doing this like tightrope walk of sorts when it comes to moral issues and just everything that's taking place between Voyager and the Krenim. So I picked this in part because I think you get to see his diplomacy. You also get to see some degree of leadership and like the burden that he bears with leadership in these types of situations. And I also think you get to see more emotional depth, maybe maturity might be another way of putting it, in this two-parter.
Yeah, I didn't put this on my list because I thought about it, but I also looked at this as more of a Janeway episode, right? From that same idea as you looked at Scorpion as more of a Janeway, because I feel like in part one, Chakotay gets kind of taken, right, and then we don't really see him for a lot in part one, but then in part two, he's got his moments on the Krenim ship where he's trying to like maybe I can change time, and he's starting to like lose a little bit of perspective. But yeah, I it's a great episode. I love Year of Hell as an episode. It's a 2-part episode. But yeah, I looked at it again. I looked at it as more of a Janeway, right?
Sure.
Than a Chakotay.
Sure. Okay. Let me get back to my list. Hold on a second. The next one I think is kind of weird. This is my number 8. I think it's a little weird. The fight in season 5.
Okay, the fight, right?
Tell me about the.
No, it's not. Tell me about the fight.
So we have Chakotay, who season 5, episode 19 or 18, depending on how you're counting this thing. So Chakotay is laying down in sickbay. Basically, he's dealing with these hallucinations. It's kind of like looking at and examining like some of his fears about I suppose mental illness and issues of control to a certain extent, right? And it brings back like the spiritual aspect, right, of his traditions, of being native. So there's this communication with aliens, right? With this, I don't want to call it, I guess it is a vision quest, right? That he's on, and like tapping into ancestral memory. So it's confronting stuff that he's fearful of, but also trying to communicate through these hallucinations that he's experiencing. So to me, it's kind of oddball, but again, it kind of connects to the spiritual components that we were talking about earlier. That is really important to this particular character.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird episode. I think it's an episode that I think is really low rated. If I was to go look, they're in chaotic space, and yeah, they have to try to communicate with aliens. I understand it's big for Chakotay, and there's that spiritual aspect of it, but it's kind of a forgettable episode for me.
Sure.
So how many more do you have left?
So that was my number 8. So I have 1, 2, 3, and then I might have like a few honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I have 2 left, and then maybe a couple of honorable mentions. Okay, so I'm gonna go with what I think is kind of an off the wall pick as well.
Okay.
And it's season 6, episode 8. It's called One Small Step.
Me too.
Okay, wow, I did not think that this would be on your list.
Let's go.
I'm gonna pick one that's off here. I love this episode. Like, this is a fantastic episode of Star Trek. Like, it gets to the heart of like exploration.
Yes.
And the sense of joy and wonderment and like, what are we doing? Why are we out here? We're not just out here to like collect scientific data, but we're out here to do that, but also to like explore history
Mm-hmm.
and have get some kind of enjoyment or some excitement out of this. So we see we flash back to like an early Mars exploration, and this command module gets like sucked into this spatial anomaly or whatever, and then that spatial anomaly now shows up into the future, and we see this module inside of there, and like we're all excited, right? We're all excited. Like Tom Paris is excited because this was one of his first heroes, and Chakotay is super excited because this is one of his first heroes, and he wants to go in there and he wants to explore this because Chakotay, he's paleo. I don't what is it? Not paleo, because he's not a paleontologist, is he? What is he? He's a anthropologist,
Yes.
right? He studies cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he studies them through the past, and what better way to help study like we can literally go into the thing right from our past and collect data and just be around it. It's like when Picard touches the Phoenix in Star Trek First Contact. Like Chakotay wants to have that same moment here. I kind of don't like the fact that like this episode got stolen from Chakotay by Seven of Nine, because a lot of things get stolen by her. Like it very easily, like I get why they put her in here, because like she's trying to understand. Well, she even said, I got the quote, he's like, remember, when you set foot into the module, you're stepping foot into history. And she's like, history is irrelevant. He goes, irrelevant? Do me a favor, when you're over there, download whatever you can from the database, and also take a moment to look around, right? Tell us what it's like. And so I get why, because it's like we're trying to restore parts of her humanity. So I get why she's in it. But like, I just love this moment for Chakotay. We get to see his joy and his excitement of like being this anthropologist, and I could spend a lifetime just studying all the data that's been collected here. I never thought this would be on your list.
Glad I can surprise you.
Okay. What do you think?
No, like the fact that we have let me get back to my notes. Hold on. I was preparing for the next one. Yeah, like just his love for history, right? Like he's not Picard, but he still has this appreciation for it, and just like exploration. And you really get to get this sense of his like his awe, his reverence, his hopefulness for stuff, even amongst like danger, which I really like about his character. So yeah, great tribute to like exploration and just furthering character development, even if it is late in the series for him.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Shattered.
We're on the same page here. We got a lot of the same episodes here.
So I mean, like, I think the real easy way to describe this, there's fractures of like past, present, future type of thing going on, and Chakotay is the only one that can make sense of it. So he's the bridge among things, where he has to collaborate with crew from basically different time periods to make things better ish.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, he's kind of central to that because he's the only one that can make sense of it. It's kind of an important episode.
Kind of, yeah.
So, yeah. So you get to see him being a really resourceful character in this. It shows, I think, his adaptability, and again doubles down on his loyalty to his ship and the crew. Yeah.
This is a fun episode. It's I would hesitate to call it a clip show, right? Clip episode, because it's not, right? It's one of those just explore things that have happened in your past and your potential future, right? And it's a fun episode. I really enjoy it. And but it's not just fun. Like there's philosophical moment, right? Like he's talking in this conversation with Janeway from the past, and she's like, to hell with it. And he's like, with all due respect, it's a little presumptuous to think you have the right to change, because Janeway wants to bring them into the past so they don't go to the Delta Quadrant, right? So he's like, it's a little presumptuous to think that you have the right to change everyone's future. But she goes, from what I've seen, they'll thank me. All you've seen are bits and pieces. You're missing the whole picture. Really? What am I missing? He's like, it's not what, it's who. People like 7 of 9, a Borg drone who will become a member of your crew after you help recover humanity. Or Tom Paris, a former convict who will be our pilot, our husband to B'Elanna Torres. Right? That angry woman? She's going to be your chief engineer. 2 crews, Starfleet and Maquis, are going to become one. And they'll make as big a mark on the Delta Quadrant as it'll make on them. By protecting people like the Ocampans, curing diseases, encouraging peace. Children like Naomi and Egypt are going to grow up on this ship and call it home. And they'll all be following our captain, who sets a course for Earth and never stops believing we'll get there. I mean, that's a great speech, right? Like, and again, like, Chakotay has that perspective that she doesn't have, but also in the same sense, he's being loyal to this captain of his. Like, he's being loyal to her in all respects, and he's saying, like, you have done all these great things, like, you are responsible for all of this, and we're all following you, and I'm not going to let you change that. I'm not going to let you change that because maybe some things didn't go right.
Yeah.
It's a really fun episode.
It is. Yeah. And I will say that Timeless is not on my list.
No, that's a Harry Kim episode.
That's a Harry Kim episode, yeah. Endgame, I mean, it's there. Okay, like Endgame, just it has to be there just because like that's where the series ends.
No, it
right?
doesn't.
Like,
no, it doesn't.
For me, okay, from a narrative perspective, it has to be there. Okay, because that's where we are. But I don't know if I want to, how I want to combine these, but I want to do some kind of like duct taping of stuff, some MacGyvering of episoding stuffs. So this might be like my list. It might be honorable mention. It's a weird Frankenstein's monster of episodes. We got some Chakotay love and Prodigy, man.
Okay.
So I just want to highlight a Moral Star Moral Star Part 2, which would have been Season 1, Episode 10, where we learn basically that Chakotay was the original captain of the Protostar. And through that and some other stuff that happens in Season 1 of Prodigy, and by the way, if any of you in Listenerland have not watched Prodigy, you're running out of time to do it on streaming because it's being pulled from Netflix here very soon at the time of this recording. So, go to your favorite retailer and buy it on physical media, because that's going to be your only option to watch it, unless you do bootleg somewhere else. Great series. Like, just because it's animated, don't knock it. I know me and the guys, we fell in love with the show when we were discussing it and stuff. But yeah, a Moral Star Part 2. That's where we learn about Chakotay being the original captain. We learn about some stuff that happens, like what Chakotay was doing in his final mission in Mindwalk, which was episode 18 of Season 1 of Prodigy. And then I think the one after this, and again, I don't know if this is like an actual part of the list or if this is honorable mention, but Last Flight of the Protostar Parts 1 and 2, where we see Chakotay marooned on this planet for a decade, and how he is very isolated, and he's very he's just surviving, right? He just grows very rugged,
He's Luke Skywalkering it
Exactly.
on that planet.
Right, exactly. And he eventually comes around to our main cast. So I think like had Prodigy not come out, we could have just stopped where we did, like with Shattered. But this advances his story and his character development, even if it is in a different medium. So
yeah, I didn't even think about putting any Prodigy on here. No, Last Flight of the Protostar, fantastic episode. Really good. I'm looking back. We all gave it great ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And then his role after that, right, and in the things like Ascensions Part 1 and 2.
Yep.
Right. Reno, like really good. He joins it, and I think I always like going back to some of those characters that we haven't seen, and I think it was nice to see Chakotay get some play there, because he's not always the character that's first in mind to come back.
Yeah. I think like there are some other episodes too.
Yeah, I have a couple. Like I was gonna put Equinox on my list, which was like a top Janeway episode for me, but I felt like it was too similar to Scorpion, in the sense that like there's the big blow up between Janeway and Chakotay over their disagreement of how to handle this situation, and she gets pissed at him.
Sure.
Right? There's that moment she literally walks in between him and that other guy, and the look on her face. I mean, it's a great episode, but like I think too similar to Scorpion, right, for reasons to put it on here. And then I think an episode for me that's also that I really like would be Natural Law, right, from toward the end in season 7. But like for me, I think that's really similar to One Small Step, in the sense that you see Chakotay as this anthropologist, right, and except now he's like, how can we watch this primitive culture, primitive in air quotes, right, without interfering with them, and how do we know what's best for them from this? And you get to see the anthropologist in him, but like two maybe similar to One Small Step to like make it onto the list proper.
Yeah, cool. Is that it for your...
Yeah, that was everything that I had.
Okay.
What about you? Is there anything?
No, I mean, I think even for like my honorable mentions, I think I'm good. I mean, like you could say like going back to Prodigy stuff like Ascension, or even the series finale of Ouroboros, part 2. I mean, take it or leave it, but yeah, I mean, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, man, look at that, man.
I mean, I think I counted 7 that we had in common, which
look at that.
Kind of surprising, right? I was genuinely surprised that you had some of these.
Oh man, I can still surprise you all these years later.
That's right.
Here we go. All right. Well, I think that's it. Where's that bring us, man? Like in our trek through folks.
We got to get to. If we get to Paul, we got all the captains and all the first officers.
Okay, we're doing it.
We're gonna get there. Slowly but surely, we'll get there.
We're gonna do it. Oh man.
And maybe we can move on to the doctors,
yeah,
or the engineers, or who knows.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get to Paul on the books, and
yeah, then we'll see where we can go from there.
Yeah, man. I'd be really interested to explore the doctors, our chief medical officers here.
The only reason I thought of the doctors is because Kirk, Spock, McCoy, right?
Yeah. So yeah, let's get after it, man. I know we have stuff we got to deal with here pretty soon with like we talked about at the top of the show with Strange New Worlds. That's going to occupy some of our time, but I'm sure we can make the time to do other stuff too, because I don't know what's going to come on after Strange New Worlds. Like, I don't know when.
There's nothing, isn't that it?
I don't know when Starfleet Academy comes out.
Yeah, the Academy series. I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah. But I think
not on purpose, but
well, I think those are the only two shows, right?
Yeah,
like that there's going to be. So anyway, well, as usual, my friend, thanks for the conversation, and
yes, thank you.
Yeah, glad that we could surprise each other with the similarities.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone out there, we love to kind of hear from you and kind of like what you're thinking in terms of if you had to come up with a Chakotay list, what would it be? Would yours be pretty similar? Would it be vastly different? Let us know. Get in contact with us, trtvpod@gmail.com. Of course, you can send us a voice only to 817-752-4757. Or if you want to mail us something, you can do that too. I don't know. Something cool? Like, I don't know, like a vinyl decal of Chakotay's tattoo. I might do something with that. I don't know. Put it on a laptop, put it on my car. I don't know, man. It's fine. Anyways, Lone Star Station, P.O. Box 2455, Azle, Texas 76098. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, remember to boldly go and make it so.